Smark Podcast. Welcome to the KayFabe Smark Podcast with Eric Todd and Brian Rompa, your Smart Mark source for news and opinions on the world of professional wrestling.
Hey, this is the KayFabe Smark Podcast. This is July the 5th, 2021, coming at you with episode 58 of the KayFabe Smark Podcast. It is good to be back after this holiday weekend. Things got postponed. Things got a little messed up schedule-wise, but we are here. We are ready to go, and let's see what is going on with Mr. Eric Todd in his world. Eric, what's up?
Oh, please excuse me. My eyes are a little red and watery. We were just discussing my son hanging out with his stupid ass friends and how I'm going to have to send him to a pet crematory if he keeps his shit up. But we just came off a nice 4th of July weekend, nice extended weekend on our day jobs. Friend of the show, Joey, we hung out at his house, shot some fireworks, Brian and I, and my drag racing son. And back to real life tomorrow, but for now, we're going to talk some wrestling.
Pro wrestling, and I think this week we are diving in and talking about AEW and the show that is their weekly show, Dynamite, as it was back on Wednesday nights. Before we get into all that fun, usually Eric has some news for us. Eric, you got any news for us?
I do got a little bit of news for you, so
I'm going to hit the twirly bird because I got it kinks worked out from last week. Taking us around the globe, we've got the news with Mr. Eric Todd on the KayFabe Smark Podcast. All right, what we got?
All right. So Jungle Boy is now in love, and he is hitting the romance road with one of his fellow competitors over in AEW. Jungle Boy and Anna Jay are now an item.
Cool.
And not bad for old Jungle Boy there. Little young boy just turned 24, and now he's hooked up with one of the hottest little things over in AEW, so good for them too.
Yeah, I always find it funny now that these relationships get released and leaked out and then exposed on their social medias. All that stuff was, no puns intended, kept kayfabe. Even after kayfabe was broken, the relationships and who was with who was definitely hidden, but not so much these days.
Yeah, everything's just out in the open nowadays. Nobody cares what anybody knows. You got heels hanging out with baby faces and so on and so forth, and kind of taken away from the product a little bit. But as fans, sometimes it's really cool to be up close and personal and know what's going on in your favorite wrestler's real life.
Sure.
WWE will be taking applications for SummerSlam week tryouts in Las Vegas. They posted a promo featuring Mandy Rose to promote the invite-only tryouts. Selected people will be contacted in July with further information, and I got some details on the application.
Oh, please.
kind of weird in some spots. So it asks for information like what's your nationality, your ethnicity, but those are optional. So you don't have to put those in, but they're still asking. Your highest level of education and your height they ask for, but those are also optional.
So this whole application is optional. Can I just show up?
Right. I guess the only thing that really matters are the ones that aren't optional. Are they ask you if you're already an athlete, if you're able to speak English, which after watching AEW, I see Andrade couldn't check that box. If you have a military background, athletic background, and then your experience level in any pro wrestling, acting, and also public speaking. So this is also invite only. So I don't know how this whole thing's going on. There's an application, but it's invite only, and you don't have to tell them if you're black or white or 5'6" or 6'9",
Interesting. And this is they're looking for wrestlers or all types of personalities for backstage, correspondents and interviewers and commentators and all of the such?
from what I've seen, it's pretty much all positions they're looking for. And once again, this will take place the week of SummerSlam. So I'd say in the next year or so, we're going to see a new influx of talent coming in. Not that they don't already have 900 wrestlers in the PC and NXT. And I really don't know what they're going for, just unless Vince is frustrated and just wants some new blood.
Yeah, I mean, it's just funny, too, that he would maybe even want new blood after getting rid of everybody, after the mass firings. But maybe they're bringing him in at new pay scales, and that's the thought process. So that's one option.
Yeah, that's true. And then speaking of WWE cast-offs and firings, Sanjay Dutt, a former producer on WWE television, has been spotted behind the scenes at AEW Dynamite, and Mike Johnson of PW Insider reports that Sanjay Dutt is working as a producer now with AEW. So we get a lot of on-screen talent from WWE making their way over to AEW, and now we got some behind-the-scenes workers too. And it just goes to show what's going to happen with AEW. Are they just going to turn into a great value brand of WWE, or are they going to be able to take the good that WWE didn't recognize and turn it into their own thing?
I have a deep fear that they're just going to grab and make the great value brand. Unfortunately, I was always a fighter for AEW, going, it's not going to be WCW. Boy, are they following the WCW path. Not just the fact they went on TNT, but the fact they are grabbing anybody who bounces out of WWE and trying to grab them with the steam they have. You know, Hogan left, boom, WCW grabbed him, boom, Hogan, Macho Man, whoever. And then as the time went on, everybody just kept going up and up with that, right? So it's just, I don't know, it's scary. And we'll see, and AEW's been doing it recently with grabbing Mark Henry, Big Show, even though they got him in commentary, producers type positions. They're still bringing him out from the heat that they have from WWE. And it's scary. I think they're just going to not create anything of their own and keep trying to steal other stuff is what they're going for.
Yeah, and it's just they have a bad habit of taking people's bad ideas too from good talent. Chris Jericho, perfect example. They bring Chris Jericho, one of the greatest performers, one of the greatest minds to ever be in WCW or WWE, and then they just let him run wild in AEW, and he just does all the off the wall stupid ass ideas that Vince shot down. He's just gonna put him on Con TV now.
Yeah. Well, again, as we spoke about before, Jericho just needs somebody to tell him no, it seems.
Yeah, since nobody's going to tell Jericho no over there, he just gets to do whatever the hell he wants, and it's frankly stupid.
Or help reform his wacky ideas into something that is good, so you can take these things and then make it into this, and everybody's just going, hey, Jericho said it, must be gold. Go for it.
And yeah, not so much. Shaquille O'Neal, one of the good friends of AEW over there, did an interview with Pop Culture, and he is teasing the long-awaited fight between him and Big Show that never happened in WWE. Shaq mentioned that he's going to try to get into shape this summer so that he and Paul White can, quote-unquote, do something very, very soon.
Can he reappear from the ambulance he disappeared in and never explain the storyline in?
Yeah, he just teleported right from the ambulance to TNT television to shoot the shit with Charles Barkley. And who knows if he's going to hop in the teleportation machine or whatnot. But
if they bring him back in a ambulance, if an ambulance pulls up and he gets out of the back of it, 100% I'm all in. That is the greatest thing I've ever seen. I will go with that all day.
I think they definitely should. But even though Shaq didn't do all that bad in his last match, that tag team match that he had, I'm really not interested in seeing him and Paul White so far past their athletic primes, just putting on a clunky. They're way too big to be clunking around. Somebody's going to end up with a broken neck.
Yeah, it might as well get Great Khali in there, and you can make it a 3-way bumblefuck match.
Pujambi prison match. Sad news in the wrestling world. The Patriot, Del Wilkes, passed away at the age of 59. His mom confirmed that on Facebook. He died of a heart attack. And as shitty as it is, it's just, well, another wrestler in his late 50s dies of a heart attack.
Yeah. The comedian, late great Patrice O'Neal, had a comment on wrestlers dying, and he says, wrestlers' cause of death is always found dead. It was one of his lines from an old Opie and Anthony show, and it was like, how did they just found dead? Cause of death, found dead. He goes, how come they can never give me a reason? But unfortunately, I know Del had his problems and his demons with substance abuse over the years and things of that nature, so he'd put his body through a lot of wear and tear, and it's sad when people die that young. I mean, 58's not that old, so he should have been around a little bit longer with his family.
Yeah, and a lot of people might not remember the Patriot, but because he floated around to a lot of promotions, and he was really well respected as an American under a mask, and he could cut a promo, and he could really work. He had great fundamentals and everything, but he did his probably most famous for his 1997 little feud with Bret Hart, when Bret Hart was being a babyface in Canada and a heel in America, and he's spouting his America Sucks gimmick. And but yeah, Del Wilkes was his main feud in that era, and that's definitely something to go back into the WWE archives and check out. That feud is rather interesting, seeing how Bret Hart played both sides of the fence like that.
Oh, that was an amazing thing, the way that Bret could do that, bouncing back and forth between the two countries and how he could get the people on the sides. And I just remembered they put Del Wilkes into the middle of all that stuff, and it just felt like this guy could work, but he just was automatically like plugged in. There was no lead in to him coming in. It was just like, hey, there's a guy with the ultimate American gimmick and a mask on. Plug him in, throw him against the Canadian guy. If there would have been a little more warm-up to it, I think it could have lasted a lot longer and been a good program to keep going with. But after that, it was just a wrap. It's like, hey, here's this guy that you never heard of wearing a mask.
Right. And this is kind of off the subject, but on the subject. But am I just making up memories in my head? Was there some point that Hogan put on the Patriot mask and did the gimmick?
He was I forget what he called himself, but yes, there was a gimmick where Hogan wore a mask and pretended he wasn't Hulk Hogan, but it was a humor thing because you could clearly see his big blonde mustache poking out through it, and he did all the same moves, but he did a Patriot mask gimmick because Hulk Hogan was fired type thing.
Oh, okay. So it was sort of like Andre in Japan being the Machine or whatever. Yeah. And then final story of the week. I haven't really been keeping up with the cock over on the Peacock Network, but I was browsing through and realized I'm a little behind on Broken Skull Sessions, but there's an interesting episode coming up on July 11th. Kevin Nash will be the guest on Stone Cold's Broken Skull Sessions, so I'm definitely interested in seeing Kevin Nash and Stone Cold shoot the shit.
Wrong arm. I'm on video here. This my old Too Sweet here on the arm. I'm a Kevin Nash NWO mark from way back, so I definitely want to tune into that. And I got to check out the Mick Foley one too. I completely have spaced on that with the crazy summer schedule going on. So they got that Mick Foley one on there. I think they did a Godfather one. I don't know if that one's been released yet. And then I got this Kevin Nash one coming up. So I got a couple to catch up on for sure.
Yeah, I did watch the Godfather one. That one's really good. I'm guilty of kind of just letting the Mick Foley one float by just because we have been
Mick Foley'd out
bombarded with Mick Foley shit between A&E and the Peacock and everything else. It's just so much Mick Foley shit's been going on. It's like, what's he going to say that we don't already know?
Maybe, just at least maybe just get a different perspective on some stories with Austin sitting there and dragging other stuff out or telling it in his way, the way that he saw it. So either way, I'll probably put it on one day and just check it out.
Yeah, and then speaking of Kevin Nash, just one thing to check out if you aren't too familiar with the WWE show Table for Three, there's an episode from season 2 or season 3. It's a couple years old, but it's Kevin Nash, Shawn Michaels when he still had hair, and AJ Styles going back and forth, and that one's really good. And they actually talk about AJ Styles and his pals over there in New Japan stealing the wolf sign the Wolfpack symbol and the 2 Sweet. So yeah, definitely check that out if you're on a Kevin Nash kick.
Always on a Kevin Nash kick. Any other news pieces for our earballs?
Nope, that wraps the news, and hit the swirly boy.
Hit the swirly boy from around the world and into your ears. This is the KayFabe Smark News. And always following the KayFabe Smark News, and I haven't made a sweeper for myself yet, is overrated, underrated. This time we're going to do submission holds. And I'm going to give you some of the guys that made them famous with this move as well. So you can rate this however you want, by the guy that gave it or just the move itself. This is all you, Mr. Eric Todd. So first off, you have the STF from John Cena. Overrated or underrated in a submission move?
Just because it's John Cena, I'm going to say it's overrated. Basically, whatever John Cena puts his hands on, it's just they make it way more devastating and way more just flashy. And whatever John Cena has his name attached to, 99% of the time it's going to be overrated. So I give that to his submission move, the STF. Also,
I hate I hated this move too because he never had it on tight. He would cross the legs and reach over there and never had the chin fully locked in. Like, the guy could look up and down and left and right, and it's like you're supposed to be cranking on this guy's neck to see to crank it back, and you're just kind of loosely giving him a hug. Let's go with overrated, underrated, the ankle lock. Kurt Angle, Ken Shamrock. These guys made this thing famous. I think Brock borrowed it for a while. Jake Hager now uses it in AEW. The ankle lock. Where are you at on the ankle lock?
I am with the underrated on the ankle lock because it's not visually appealing. But when you think of the guys who have it, it's MMA guys. It's Ken Shamrock. It's the guy who won a gold medal with a broken freaking neck, Kurt Angle. It's Jack Hager, who also does MMA. It's a quick, concise, devastating move, and I think you and I and our friends have all practiced around putting the ankle lock on each other. You apply that bitch, it's gonna hurt.
Oh, yeah.
Way more than the STF.
This one I know what you're going to give just because of the man who delivers it. Overrated, underrated, the torture rack, made famous by Lex Luger.
To quote that fella Eric Todd on the KayFabe Smark podcast last week, fuck Lex Luger.
The thing I always hated about the torture rack with Lex Luger is that it always seemed like you're very limited on who you can put it on.
Yeah, that's you can't throw that bitch on Yokozuna, but also the torture rack is one of those things that was very easy to do with one of your older brothers or a cousin or an uncle or something, and the magic just immediately taken away when you're putting the torture rack and you're like, oh wait, this doesn't hurt, and I'm 8 years old.
Right, where you put somebody, go back to the ankle lock we just spoke of, and somebody cranked on your ankle, you're like, oh my God.
Right. My little skinny son could put me in the ankle lock and I'd be screaming and tapping away.
All right, last one here. Overrated, underrated, the sharpshooter.
Sharpshooter is, I think it's right where it needs to be, man. Nobody disrespects the sharpshooter, but nobody really overshoots it and talks about it's absolutely devastating and it can put you in a wheelchair. But that's one that it all depends on who's putting it on. We've seen some very ugly sharpshooters, and then we've seen Bret Hart do it. And when the excellence of execution executes it, it's pretty much you're executed.
Bret Hart put on a great sharpshooter. Sting using the Scorpion Deathlock, also just the sharpshooter. Let's just call it what it is. They both applied good ones. The Rock, as great as he is as a performer and on the microphone, The Rock applied the crappiest sharpshooter I've ever seen in the history of sharpshooters. He had the highest butt, never put any pressure on the back. Sharpshooter you ever saw. I hate those. That's the sharpshooter I hate. Whoever delivers it, if you're not sitting down on it, well, you're wasting my time for. That is overrated, underrated, submission holds, and the men who made them famous. Now we're going to move into some AEW.
Yeah, I haven't watched AEW in a few weeks, And
As have I. As I not have. Neither have I.
yeah, I fell victim. We've all talked shit and saying, AEW's real fans can't believe they're not watching it when it's on Saturday night or Friday night. And lo and behold, it's just way more convenient to go do something fun rather than sit at home and watch shitty wrestling.
Yeah, I
But-
fell victim to the Friday night thing too. It was on at a terrible time. It was on a terrible day, and well, screw it. I just didn't watch it.
Right. And they were on a huge slump. I just pulled up their ratings here while we were doing overrated, underrated. And that whole little thing where they were on Fridays and Saturday nights, they were floating around 450,000 viewers, 500,000 viewers. And this week, June 30th, they're right back to their normal position, a little bit higher than normal, actually, at 883. So just like riding a bike, man, AEW gets on Wednesday nights where they belong, and they're right back in the upper 800,000s range for viewers.
Which is good for them. They hopefully they've taken notes of this and said, hey, Wednesdays is where we belong. Let's be here on Wednesdays and stay focused on this.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with their Friday night rampage or whatever the hell they got going on. Friday night phenomenons or whatever the hell they plan on calling it.
Yeah, but their mainstay, their flagship show just needs to stay clearly on Wednesdays is the day. Fridays is not the day to flip that to. And then we got a station change coming up shortly too, don't we? Eventually here with TBS.
Yeah, I think that's the first week of 2022, I believe. They switch over to TBS, something like that. But this week in AEW, we open up with Chris Jericho just taking his sweet ass time, coming down the ramp, just dragging it out so they can play his entire Judas song. And I don't know, from the shots of the audience versus the audio, I'm thinking the audience singing it might have been a tad piped in there. What do you think, Brian?
You're thinking they're pulling the old WCW Goldberg gimmick where Goldberg really wasn't quite chanted the way at all the times like we thought he was. And when that was exposed to me, I'll tell you a story real quick. I went and saw, with a good friend of the show here, Andy, we went and saw Monday Nitro. We were probably in our junior, senior year of high school. So this has been over 20 years ago. Nitro's hot shit on TV. The Red Wings here in Detroit were in the playoffs that night having a show. We were at the Palace. They were at the Joe. And we were chanting, "Let's go Red Wings, let's go," doing the old clap, clap, clap. And when we got home and we were rewatching the tape to see if we could see ourselves on TV at any point, where the Red Wings chant was, over the top of the TV, they got Goldberg, Goldberg, and then it was fully exposed. And then WWE, WWF at the time, took it and ran with it and did the Gilbert gimmick. And they had the Gilbert chant going when clearly showing people not chanting it to really make fun of it. And but you're claiming that they're doing that with the some of the pre-recorded audio from the some Jericho in his Judas song.
Yeah, it's purely speculation, but I think AEW's piping a little bit of that into the TV cameras.
Just padding it up a little bit.
There's people singing it, but there's people singing it the way you and I see other audience members at concerts we go to, where they're just like, become my mind.
They don't really know the words.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure the cons are conning us a little bit and
these poor
tuning
bastards.
that part up a little bit.
These poor bastards in their last name, the cons. It's a con man.
But Jericho's going to join us on commentary for the night. And we start off real quick about Jericho's commentary. Ever since the dinner circle became baby faces, now Jericho, all of a sudden, even in his commentary, is like shitting on the Young Bucks. And you know me, I'm not really a buckaroo, but to have Chris Jericho, who was a heel for so long, all of a sudden be cheering on Eddie Kingston and Penta Cerro Dinero, it just throws me off a little bit. That's not Jericho.
Yeah, it is and it's not. The reason that I agree with you is that it happened too fast.
Right.
There was no transformation for me to notice. It was a we've talked about it many times. You can go back in the archives and check out all of our shows on any podcast platform or at anchor.fm/KayFabe Smark and check out that. I mean, we've been talking about it forever that AEW will just go from week 1 to week 2 and they'll flip-flop back and forth. Like, I'm along the Young Bucks were part of this crew of being a heel, then they were good guys, and it wasn't even like they had a battle. I don't mind some of those where they're doing these inner battles and people are being tug-of-warred back and forth in their emotions. They don't even deliver that. They just say, oh, it's just booked day by day and not long-term is the way it feels.
Yeah, everything's fly by the seat of your pants. And so, yeah, that just needs to be planned out a little more. I guess we haven't really seen too much of commentator Jericho lately. So it's just commentator Jericho went straight up heel, fuck everybody who's a good guy, and now he's straight up babyface, fuck all the bad guys.
Yeah. I do enjoy Jericho on commentary. I am not mad at him. I think he could have a possible post-career a post in the wrestling business being in commentating. But so I was happy for that, but I was happy when Chris Jericho was commentating, not the Judas or the AEW Chris Jericho, however you want to word it. When he was just himself, it's funny and it flows and it makes sense. When he's forced into character, it's over the top cheesy and it doesn't quite feel natural. Feel a little icky.
Yeah, nail right on the head right there, which the guy's been in the business 30 years and he's been talking his ass off. You would think he'd be able to smooth that out a little bit. But I digress. A couple visual things at the beginning of this match that kind of threw me off, kind of had me prepared for a bad match, were the Bucks' new facial hair.
Oof. I'm even wearing a Young Bucks t-shirt right now, and oof.
I don't know what they're going for. I mean, I guess I kind of get it. They're going for we're just going to look as stupid as we want to look and do dumb shit and wear jewels on our head and everything, and because we're bad guys and F you if you don't like it.
Yeah, I think it's we're too cool for the room type vibe. We can do what we want. We're going to set new trends. We're going to, do the look and act the part of these things, but it's a little off-putting. It's strange. It made me think if they were real, those mustaches. I was waiting for them to fall off during the match, like some terrible Halloween mask or Halloween mustache.
Yeah, they looked a little unnatural, but I don't know. I'm convinced they were real, but it just was
real
kind of
stupid.
We're in 2021. Growing a mustache isn't going to make you a good guy or a bad guy anymore. Back in the 70s, if you went in as a clean-faced
baby face,
and then all of a sudden you had a big handlebar mustache, it's like, oh no, that guy's a bad guy. He's a biker now or something, But long gone are those days. And then the other thing that bothered me, which I understand these things are expensive and you got to reuse them, but Penta El Cerro Dinero really showing off his Cerro Dinero by recycling his Joker gimmick outfit from Double or Nothing and just wearing it on a normal ass Wednesday night show. When you do a specialized gimmick outfit a la Rey Mysterio for a pay-per-view, you retire it. You put it away in the closet. You don't wear it again. Go back to your normal black and white Cerro Dinero outfit.
Yeah, Ray had his standards of like colors that he would rotate through back in the day, but like pay-per-views, WrestleManias, etc., big events, he would have something fancy. He even did a Joker thing at one point, and then then it gets put away and he goes back to his blue one or his purple one or his green one. That's just kind of a normal flow of colors. But I was with you on that. The other thing for this match that threw me off right away, and I know I zoned out on AEW for a few weeks, but Eddie Kingston and Penta are friends again?
Yeah, that threw me off too. I was not aware of their blossoming friendship reemerging.
I even did a quick Google to see if I missed something in the last several weeks. I tried to keep up with just reading results and popping it on the internet, and nah, this just was for that night. It just.
Are you surprised?
No, not at all.
But off-putting beginning shit all aside, this Brian Rompo is probably one of the best Young Bucks matches I've ever seen in their illustrious career.
This was a dandy. They did very well this whole match, all 4 guys, and it wasn't a lot of bullshit either in and out of the ring. It was a lot of just wrestling. It didn't get kind of AEW'd up, if you will. It didn't get mucked up.
Well, you're getting a little ahead of yourself. As we approach the end, it gets mucked up really
but
bad.
I'm saying in a tag team setting, in a traditional tag team 4-man in the ring setting, AEW, you can just get lost with who the hell's in the ring.
Right. We're going to focus on the meat and potatoes of this thing right now, which was the majority of the match. The Bucks kept it at a good pace. I know Eddie Kingston isn't going to go 1,000 miles an hour when they're in the ring with them. Penta will, but even when Penta was in the ring, they kept it at a good pace. They kept good back and forth. The Young Bucks were the majority of the ones doing any underhanded tactics, grabbing legs, any of that stuff. And Matt Jackson was actually trying to sell. And he's been called Buck Hogan. He's been called Road Warrior Buck because of his inability to sell. And he was really giving it his best effort to sell some pain this match.
Do you think they've been listening to Corny?
Funny you bring that up. So the rumor around, and Jericho will say it and everyone will say it, that nobody in AEW listens to Jim Cornette or anything he has to say. At one point in this match, I was looking for it because I heard it heavily rumored that Excalibur referred to one of the Young Bucks as Pie Face, which is a Corny exclusive. But I was sorely disappointed as I saw, I believe it was Nick Jackson was just mashing Eddie Kingston's face, and Excrement chimed in that pie facing Eddie Kingston is Nick Jackson. And I was just like, damn it. I really hoped he called him Pie Face.
So it was a little slip in there. It's a little hidden Easter egg, maybe, just from those Jim Cornette podcasts.
Right. This match really picked up in the middle, but it didn't get out of hand. You had Eddie Kingston making a comeback. He had one of the Jackson boys on the turnbuckle, and he gave him like 15 headbutts and was selling that he was actually hurting his own head, and ended with a superplex. Penta Cerro De Niro gets a hot tag, and he goes ham on both Young Bucks for about 30 seconds or so. And guess who our referee is, Brian?
Oh, it's what's his name? The old guy.
The Young Bucks special personal referee, Rick Knox.
Rick Knox. I was going to say Bryce Remberg, and that was the one that Eddie Kingston's always messing with. I got confused.
Right. And Rick Knox gives 0 fucks how many guys are in the ring, especially if their last name is Buck. And he just lets them go at it. And apologies. My dog sees something out the window and she keeps whining if my mic's picking that up.
A little bit.
But Rick Knox there, he just feigns like he's trying to keep control of the match, but there's no real effort. I know the whole thing's acting, but it's not convincing whatsoever that he wants any control in this match. He just wants to stand there and look like a douche.
It would almost be better if they brought this aspect to storyline and then used it as a Nick Patrick NWO referee type thing, where they say our referee for all Young Bucks matches is him, and that they let it go, and then it's brought in the storyline that he lets them get into shit more than other referees would. They could actually work a story out of this, but instead they just have it under the storyline, and then he just stands there.
No, in real life, he's just a shitty referee and does whatever the Young Bucks let him do, and they don't even make a story out of it. So, yeah, you hit the nail right on the head there. We get a little more back and forth. We get a couple false finishes, and then the Good Brothers arrive. And along with the Good Brothers, this is where AEW really gets mixed into it, and this is where things fall apart and just start to look extremely cheesy, extremely corny. No pun intended.
Yeah, the Good Brothers, I liked them. I still like them. I think they can be used, but they come to AEW, they come to AEW TV, but they never actually wrestle. And I know they're an Impact TNA product, or whatever, but if you're going to be there, at least be involved in not necessarily involved in the matches, don't just be interfering, but like be a part of the storylines and let's make something happen. Like, you're just always wandering around. Like, eventually you have to go away or do something, and I feel they're not doing anything. They're just always hanging out, and that's even the storyline, that they're just hanging out. It's kind of boring and lost its gusto for me.
Yeah, exactly. And they show up this time, and their only purpose in this thing is to distract Rick Knox, who we just established doesn't need any distracting, but they distract him so Brandon Cutlet can spray Penta Cerro De Niro in the face with the cold spray. And this is it right here. Penta ducks, and Brandon Cutler is spraying 2 cans of cold spray at Nick Jackson in the face, and Cutler is just panicking. He doesn't know what to do, and for some reason, he can't pull his arms away. He can't let go of the button on the cold spray. He just continues to spray Nick Jackson in the face with cold spray for a solid 10 to 12 seconds, and it's so cartoony and so shitty and just so fake and phony. There's no way around it. This was the most cartoony shit I've seen in a match.
Yeah, that was bad, and it'd have been better if they would have had Alexa Bliss there, and she could have hypnotized him into spraying him with the cold spray.
It would have fit right in. And then we get an appearance from Kaz, Frankie Kazarian, for no reason. There's no reason for Kaz to show up.
He's the elite hunter. That's his gimmick.
I guess they just need him on TV. Maybe they're paying him a good amount of money. But Kaz shows up just to clothesline Brandon Cutler, and then Penta Cerro De Niro hits a package pile driver. Eddie Kingston gets a move in, and then Penta ends up getting a pin. And Kingston and Penta end up with the W, and they get a shot at the title now, right? Is that
so
that what it was?
Stupid. So it was part of
they
that
beat
tag
the champions to get a shot at the title.
Yeah, it was a tag team eliminator tournament, but the Bucks were in it. And then this was like the finals. So either the Bucks got to walk away and not have to face the finals, I guess. But if they won, it's so weird that they beat them and then they get a shot at them. I guess it kind of works, but the thing that's messed up that AEW is doing wrong, in my opinion, is they're not even putting that on a pay-per-view. It's on this Road Rage tour, so the first time they kick it off and they go on the road with AEW and take Dynamite somewhere, that's the show. So you're getting it for free.
Yeah, they always work ass backwards with this kind of stuff, and I don't get it.
It's doesn't make sense. So why wouldn't you take that and say now they get this at the next paper, even if the next pay-per-view isn't until like Labor Day weekend into September, which is I'm gonna guess has been their MO, right? It's not that far off.
Right.
You get to finish half of July, or all of July and all of August, and then hit it into September. So you get a good 2 months to work through this.
I don't know, keeping one storyline going for 6 weeks, though, Brian, I think that's asking a little bit too much of the AEW booking team there.
But it's just so funny to me that they put all this work into it, and then they should have had this tournament end 2 weeks out before the pay-per-view.
Yeah, the TTET that now I call it. But, yeah, I don't know. The booking is out of control, and that's a constant complaint that we're not the only ones complaining about it. Everyone is. But we get that match wrapped up. Kingston and Penta have a title shot coming up there on the Rageosaurus tour or whatever. And now we got Christian in the back. Now Christian's a coach or a manager or whatever. He's in the back giving Jungle Boy a pep talk. Dushosaurus and the Glizzy Gobbler Marco Stun arrive. Glizzy Gobbler's wearing Crocs. What? I mean, he's already 5'0", 98 pounds, looks like a 10-year-old boy, and then now they got him wearing it's just, how can we make him every week? It's almost like they want to top themselves. How can we make this wrestler not look like a wrestler?
Have him carry
I hate the Glizzy Gobbler.
They should have him carry a lunchbox and wear a backpack. He could skip to school.
They might as well, and then they can have him fight -1 or whatever, and it would actually be a believable match. But we get a couple dinosaur jokes in this one. Christian Cage says he's part dinosaur, and it's like, ah, ha, ha, whatever, and we move on. Ethan Page, this was a very confusing spot right here. This thing was just all over the place. Ethan Page challenges Darby Allin to a coffin match.
Oh, God, this thing. I forgot about this part. Yes, continue.
Sting wheels out this gimmick, covering in a sheet. Looks like a fucking buffet table. And the sheet is pulled away, and it turns out it's a half-ass coffin with no lid on it. And Darby Allin pops out, attacks Ethan Page. Darby Allin, fresh out of the nail salon, too. His nails are perfectly manicured. And a lot of people probably didn't catch this. I've dated a lot of hairstylists and nail technicians and whatnot. The shape of Darby Allin's nails, I believe, is called the coffin shape. And they were clearly fake nails, freshly painted black. And Darby just pops out, and he's attacking Ethan Page. He's got his fingers in his mouth and everything. And now at this point, Ethan Page is upset. He just challenged Darby Allin to a coffin match next week. Darby Allin attacks Page. Page says now the match isn't next week, but it's going to be at Fyter Fest, and maybe at Fyter Fest, only if Darby Allin can keep his hands off him for a whole week before Fyter Fest.
All right, well, that even ruins my take it back 2 seconds here. Why didn't they have the goddamn tag team match at Fyter Fest?
When is Fyter Fest?
I don't know. It's usually in July, but it's still a free show.
Yeah, but at least it's a big free show
Sure.
like that, Blood and Guts or whatever.
Yes, that. I actually didn't mind the fact that that Ethan Page got jumped and now he's backing out, going, "I'll fight you, Darby, but you got to keep your hands off me. I'm coming at this fresh. You don't get to jump on me and beat me up and then face me next week, not at full capacity." So it's a good way to stretch the storyline out. It's a good way that they could run this and fake that Ethan Page got beat up by Darby Allin, where they're framing him, and they could run some cool angles with that. Have Ethan Page laying on the ground with a skateboard broken by him, and you could be like, I'm not fighting you next week. Now look, you did it again, but there's no video. They could have they could do a lot of things with this. They won't do any of this because it's creative and thoughtful. They're just going to wing it and make up something different next week. They'll probably have the match next week because they forgot that they said they were going to postpone it a week.
I think that was the main thing that threw it off. You need to keep your hands off me for a solid week. Okay, Wednesday to Wednesday. That's a week. Why not have the match next week, you fucking idiot? Now, all it does is show that the full intention was to have the coffin match at Fyter Fest, because there's no logical reason why they can't have it next Wednesday now. That's what kind of fucked me up on it. It was we basically we went from New York down to Jacksonville, down to Miami, up to fucking Davenport, Iowa, up to Montana, and we're just trying to get to Las Vegas here. We're going all over the place, took a left at Albuquerque, and
he's saying that he got so beat up, Eric, by him that he has to wait an another week to fight him because he got that beat up, and when he got jumped after Sting brought out Darby Allin in the coffin, that Ethan Page just couldn't fight next week. He's so beat up. I'm laying on the sarcasm.
So yeah, he needs. So, all right, yeah, let's keep this thing going. So, can Darby Allin just beat the living shit out of Ethan Page every chance he gets for the next 6 days? And then the no touch clause starts 1 week before Fyter Fest. So Darby Allin can drop a crane on him and keep with the Looney Tunes theme there, drop an anvil on his head, paint a fake tunnel on the side of a building, and run Ethan Page right into it. And he can do that until 1 week before Fyter Fest, and then he can't touch him.
That's all he's got to do. Just keep his hands off him for 1 week.
Yeah. But anyway, just more lazy booking, bad writing. Speaking of lazy and bad, Chris Jericho is pimping his book now. And just this book, Brian, is a compilation of his matches. And it's just having other people write good things about Chris Jericho and his matches. How self-involved and just patting on the back can Chris Jericho be? It's like almost like he wrote this while he was in heel gimmick.
I thought, from what I understand, is this is like, I mean, no, it's been worked up, but it started from the idea that he kept in an elaborate log of his wrestling throughout the years, and then he just kind of turned it in for people to transcribe out. That way he could just kind of pull up all his matches over the 30 years. But he was a very detailed from when he started, like keeping a journal, because he said he wasn't going to remember everything, and then started transcribing it. So it's an interesting thought, the idea of this book. Now, how it's being sold, I can't defend that. How Hollywood or how the interpretations were done, but he just kind of said, handed a bunch of papers and said, "Here, you guys, go make this into a book." From what I understand.
Yeah, just zero work went into it, unless you count the fact that he kept notebooks of all his matches. I guess you can give him credit on that. Not too many wrestlers other than, Jim Cornette did that. He kept attendance records. He kept everything of every match he's ever been involved in, every event he's ever been involved in. But yeah, no other athletic talent has really done that. So you got to give it to Jericho on that. But the book, instead of writing a new book and kind of including that in it, like you said, he just handed over his notebooks, said, "Here, make me money." And I don't know, I just don't really have respect for that, I guess.
I think it could have been a great online thing, some type of website thing. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Where it's kind of like a free, like the Jericho database, and you could go in and punch in a date and see what Jericho did on that date. And it could have been a way to drive, in a influencer world that we live in these days, for him to draw attention to stuff that way and sell other types of products and other things. But, I guess he made it into a book, and we'll see how it works.
Yeah, we shall see. His first couple books were not too shabby. I didn't really like his motivational speaker book, but I don't know. I'll wait till this thing comes out, and I'm kind of a geek for stats, so who knows? I actually might be interested in this thing. Next on our card here, we had Jungle Boy going up against Jack Evans, the botch master here, and this match was what it was, I guess. You got Jungle Boy. You're really trying to hype him up. You had Christian Cage backstage hyping him up. You had him fighting Kenny Omega for the championship and falling short. But now he's fighting Botch Evans here. And
Botch Evans.
Jungle Boy is doing the best with the hand that he's dealt. Jack Evans, all he is gymnastics and tricks.
Yeah. I can't. Now, I'll fight you on some of these guys and say, "Come on, Eric, they can." But yes, he's a rave dancer that can do backflips and knows an arm lock. Now all I can think about, though, is the Bob Evans theme song, but being like, "Botch Evans."
Down on the farm.
I'll break your arm.
He's broken your arm. But they do some chain wrestling in the beginning, but it's all Jungle Boy leading them through it. I'm sure they had to go over that for 6 or 7 hours backstage there. And then just the one spot that was just, oh my God, had me face palming. So there's a spot where we got Jack Evans and Jack Perry up on the top rope, and they're fighting over who's going to do the move or whatever. Jack Evans jumps down, and that just leaves Jungle Boy standing on the rope, bent over, basically holding his ankles for what seemed like forever, so Jack Evans could take his sweet-ass time and travel halfway across the ring and come back just so he can act like he's going to powerbomb Jungle Boy at some point, and Jungle Boy does a backflip. And it was such a stupid, unfulfilling spot that the fact that they wasted so much time on it and made it way more complicated than it needed to be just kind of blew my mind. You could have had Jack Evans just fuck something up on the top and then had Jungle Boy do a backflip off just to be a show off. But yeah, it just looked so stupid and so obvious. And I don't know if you have anything to say on that, but
they can't
anyway,
defend
after
or it sucked.
after Jungle Boy's little backflip, he hits the snare trap or locks in the snare trap for the win. And then we get the little afterbirth. And it almost seems like the whole point of this stupid match was just to get Christian Cage and Matt Hardy to brawl a little bit in the ring to bring some nostalgia and maybe tease something like that, because everybody remembers the Hardy Boys versus Edge and Christian.
Yeah.
And that's what we got right in the middle of the ring. Matt Hardy getting his suit jacket ripped off.
Yeah, for no reason. And again, we'll probably forget that it happened next week, and they'll probably be Christian will probably be part of the Matt Hardy family and end up being in his stable.
I wouldn't put it past him. We get MJF cutting a promo, and MJF, this guy, what can you say bad about him besides when Jericho was influencing all of his decisions, man? This promo he cuts on Jericho is great. And it also has you excited because this whole Jericho MJF thing might finally be coming to an end, because MJF will give Chris Jericho all of his stipulations for his one last match that Jericho gets against MJF. And MJF is teasing that he's really going to make it a hard and difficult road for Chris Jericho to journey down.
Yeah, I mean, MJF can deliver a promo. He can deliver everything and tell a story and do it so well, so eloquently. And it's refreshing when he comes on. It makes it why you end up watching AEW. Is the frustration that you get with, Botch Evans breaking your arm. The pain goes away when you get to see an MJF, right? Or you'd hear,
right,
or an Eddie Kingston, for example, too, another one that can talk and draw you in and makes you interested again. So they have some talent there. They just got to dial it in and maybe weed out the shit.
and just like in AEW fashion here, you got the yin, you got to throw in some yang. We go from a promo with MJF to a promo from Andrade El Idiota here. And this guy, he's a talented wrestler. You and I have both talked about when he was in WWE, NXT, whatever the fuck he was on. We just couldn't get into him. And they kind of show off that reason why he's hard to get into right here, and why WWE is asking if you can speak English on their tryouts there in Nevada, because AEW had to put subtitles on the screen, not only when Andrade El Idiota was speaking Spanish, but also when he was speaking English, because his English is so bad that you can't understand it. You need subtitles on the TV. Where's Alex when we need him? Penta can put together a sentence in English. Andrade, not so much. Andrade does not need to be with Vicky Guerrero. He needs Alex with him. Alex cutting his promos. Andrade could be a force to be reckoned with in AEW if he had a good manager to basically translate and cut his promos for him.
Yes. And I think if he can learn to do this through facial expression storytelling as well. I go back to Asuka. Asuka doesn't speak English at all, right? She's screaming in Japanese, but she does it in a way. You don't know what she's saying, but you know what she's saying from how it's being said. You know when she's angry, and you know when she's happy. So it kind of delivers a way to do things. But if you're just going to be, straight-faced, standing there and talking to me, you got to deliver it then through verbal communication if you're not going to give me a visual communication. And that's what we were missing. Yeah.
It's just nothing is coming through on the promo side from Andrade to me. And I don't know what Charlotte Flair sees in that guy. She's not really a scout for talent, I guess. He must be hiding a hog in his panties.
Could have at least screamed at Vicky Guerrero in Spanish and then had her translate it.
Yeah. Hell, I'll take a "where the fuck was Vicky?" I'll take one of those just to have a throwback to Eddie Guerrero just for a quick second.
Where the fuck is Vicky?
we get a great promo from Kenny Omega here, and Kenny Omega has joined the facial hair club here. He's got his Triple H mustache, beard, intertwined thing going on, and he just follows the trend right now that growing facial hair makes you more of a heel. Um, Kenny Omega has beaten everyone who deserves a shot at him, and there's nobody left. And that is until the Dork Order come out without Adam Page to promote Adam Page to fight Kenny Omega without saying the name Adam Page. I guess, I don't know. It was just painfully obvious that they're talking about Adam Page, but they were going for the audience to kind of chime in. I don't get it. Omega basically says that Adam Page doesn't have the guts to fight him. He shoots his little finger guns off at the crowd, and then he bids everybody adieu.
They are leaving the imagination and storytelling to the crowd to see if there's an evolution to something that comes to fruition outside of this. I think they're taking a gamble on this type of stuff. They need to kind of spoon feed some things. And then again, this is AEW. So it sounds like, I always feel like we're contradicting ourselves, easy for me to say, when it comes to AEW, when we say they need to get more creative, and then they take chances on getting creative, but they do it in a weird, wrong way. So it's like, this is a time where you need to say, this is what we're doing. This is where we're going. And they need to kind of lay it out and get a little more, and just to kind of let people think they're talking about Adam Page is a weird thing, because then you're going to get people's hopes in one direction or another direction, and you're going to screw things up. You're going to make somebody not happy.
Yeah, and to piggyback on what you're saying, I guess I could see them kind of just dipping their toes in the Adam Page water to see if he's still over. Because you go back to a year and a half ago, Adam Page was the most over guy in the company, and they would have given him a title shot any day of the week. But he's kind of let go of the cowboy shit gimmick. Now he's out getting ice cream with the Dork Order, and he's not a drunk anymore, or not as much as a drunk anymore. And so maybe he's not as over as he once was, and maybe they're just feeling it out.
Maybe they got live crowds back, so maybe they're just trying to see how it goes and what the crowd reacts to. So they start chanting cowboy shit, then they know they want Adam Page in the ring.
And they want him doing cowboy shit. But I don't know. Kenny Omega is kind of right in this sense. Who's left? Unless you want to go back to an old feud. I wouldn't mind seeing Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho again. You know, that one could be recycled. But as of right now, Adam Page is the only guy left who should be feuding with Omega. And
yeah. Unless you're going to you're going to throw Moxley back in the mix, or if you're going to throw, what are you going to do? I'm with you. What are you going to go back to either recycling something or pulling up somebody from the mid card, if you will, to get a spot that probably shouldn't have it.
Right, and you can't pull a guy like Miro because it's just too obvious of heel versus heel. You got your guys who can play middle of the road, but like maybe a Cody Rhodes, you could see Cody and Rhodes and Omega kind of doing something. But I'd say Miro is probably the top heel in the company. I don't know, man. I lose track. I'm going to be honest with you. I lose track of some of these guys sometimes because they go months without wrestling. FTR, for example.
Yeah.
When's the last time you seen FTR in a tag team match?
Yeah, even going back saying that we missed a couple weeks while they were doing the Thursday, Friday night, or the Friday, Saturday night stuff, still. We didn't miss that much. 2 shows, 3 shows.
Right. Lance Archer, that guy disappears for months at a time. He was my favorite heel at one point. So yeah, I don't know. I might be just lacking of memory right now, but I'm seeing Miro as like the top monster in the company, but it's just him, and Omega wouldn't be a good fit. And then so I guess all that's left for him is Adam Page.
Yeah, and we can put the TNT Championship versus the AEW Championship. It can be a dual belt holder thing. So what do you do there?
Yeah. Christian Cage, maybe.
I mean, There's something you could work with there. I could give you that because Christian comes in with clout already, so he doesn't have to come up and earn it. Yeah,
But Christian's
I
going to
think
be busy with Matt Hardy now.
I think they painted themselves into a corner.
Yeah, they're kind of stuck right now. They got nothing for Omega to do.
Take the summer off, kid. We'll see you in the fall.
There we go. Go get a fresh paint of coat. We get a pre-tape promo from Brian Pillman Jr. in the back. And as far as homegrown talent, if you will, or, guys who really started getting their shot on AEW television, Brian Pillman's the best thing that AEW has. And hopefully they don't screw him up. He seems to be doing fine on his own. I think he has all the tools he needs in the Arn Andersons, in the Big Shows, in the Mark Henrys. But he's not doing like the rest of the goofs in the back. They're like, screw you. I don't want to learn how to do an ankle lock, or I don't want to learn how to hit the ropes. I want to do backflip hurricanrana karate drops,
The only thing that Brian Pillman Jr. needs that you can't learn is time. He has to crock pot this thing and just get in the ring and put in work and be on TV. The more he's working and working on TV, even better. Because then you're learning really how to tell a story.
And all the ingredients are already there for a perfect babyface. And it really helped with Dark Side of the Ring. That Brian Pillman episode was one of the best episodes they ever did. And Junior was featured prominently on that shit. So everybody wants to love Brian Pillman Jr. So as long as he keeps
doing what
working
he's doing
the way he does and trains with the right people, he's got it down pat.
Right. And I wouldn't be surprised if if he gets sniped out of there and drawn up to the NXT WWE.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. And he gets a potential great match right here. He gets a shot at the TNT Championship versus Miro. And unfortunately, this thing kind of fell flat and kind of hurt Pillman a bit. Brian Pillman Jr. looks awesome. He has a great look. He's fundamentally sound. He's everything about him for as long as he's been in the business is fantastic. Miro, he's got the dominance thing down pat, but he's just so clunky. And he doesn't know how to work with a talent to do a proper comeback. Brian Pillman's getting this comeback in this match against Miro after being dominated, and Miro's just kind of shrugging him off. It's like Pillman's not getting a chance to rally the crowd behind him, to get people to think that Brian Pillman Jr. actually has a chance right now to take this belt off of Miro.
Yeah, I was glad we didn't see Pillman get squashed, because that would have been pretty bad. He deserves more than that, and he can actually put up a fight. So even against a Miro, the monster, I know you don't want to overrate Miro and water him down in this monster that you have created. So it's always a hard spot to do, and I thought that they handled a lot of it pretty well. But yes, you're right. It just didn't seem that he was putting him up as the babyface, Miro being him, pronouns pal, that Miro was putting Brian Pillman Jr. over as the babyface and selling that. So Miro was lacking in his selling, but Brian Pillman Jr. did great in his selling, is making Miro the heel.
Right. Brian Pillman Jr. really knows how to get sympathy and in turn getting heat on Miro here, and Miro just didn't pay him back. And then just towards the end where I say it fell flat, this is where if you really wanted Pillman to lose, but you wanted to get the crowd behind him, you could have had Pillman this close to winning, and then Miro just out of nowhere hitting him with a power bomb or something. Something fast, quick, and devastating, and doing the 1, 2, 3. So everyone at home and everyone in the audience could have been like, oh, shit. He almost got him.
An almost situation.
Quite. But instead, we get Miro taking his time and playing to the crowd and kicking Brian Pillman twice in the head, which probably took about 45 seconds for him to kick him twice in the head, and then puts him in the camel clutch and reels back for the choke to choke Brian Pillman out. So basically from the moment Miro started flexing to the first kick in the head, you knew the thing was over. You knew Pillman didn't have a chance. And then it just kind of fell flat. There was no like, ooh, ah moment.
No, and especially at that 9 o'clock hour where they had this right in the middle of the show, this should have been a little spicier in keeping you hooked in. But it didn't. It was okay. It just could have been a lot better, and that's where I stand with this match.
Right. Definitely could have been worked and engineered and produced, I guess is the word I was looking for, a little better to make Brian Pillman look more solid and closer to a top-ranked babyface rather than just a mid-carder, which is unfortunately where he's just saddled right now.
Very, very true. What happened next on this god-dang show?
Next, we had a match that I really couldn't pay attention to if you paid me.
Is this that women's tag team match?
It is indeed. It is Britt Baker and Rebel versus Nyla Rose and Vicky Guerrero.
This thing was doomed from the word go. I mean, we're both Britt Baker marks all day, every day, twice on Sunday. But, you know, what are we
I don't
watching?
give a shit about Rebel. B, Nyla Rose is just a complete waste of time. There was so much potential there in the beginning, and she's just been complete trash. And then Vicky Guerrero. Why the hell is Vicky Guerrero in a ring? She has no business being in a ring. She was never a wrestler, never did anything in WWE besides manage. This thing, like you said, doomed from the start.
They could have done something cool with Britt where she never got in the ring and she kept refusing to get tagged in. They did a little bit of that, but just had Rebel in there just getting pounded by Nyla Rose and then even letting Vicky get the win over her, but Britt never gets in the ring. Like, that could have been cool, but they actually tried to make a match out of it.
Yeah, and it was just rotten, and I really couldn't pay attention. I saw the end. I saw Britt Baker win with the lockjaw, and we get to see Nyla Rose powerbombed her in the middle of the ring and then powerbombed her over the top rope and through a table.
That was the thing, too. They did another AEW thing. So one of the things that made me irritated about this a little bit is that these matches aren't... How did I think about this in my head? These matches are not laid out in a TV show format. They're laid out in a wrestling show format. And so you've got two things coming together that have to meld together. Where WWE does great is the movesets are timed out and lined up with commercials and commercial breaks. You can feel a commercial break coming up on WWE as maybe that might be bad for some people, but at least you know when two guys are laying flat in the ring, they're calling for commercial. Vicky, she's not a wrestler, but I'll defend her that she got the bone on this. She gets Britt down, or maybe it was Rebel or Britt, I don't remember. Was laying on the ground, right, in the prone position. She gets up and she does the shake, right? The Eddie, to pay homage to Eddie.
Right.
And she's getting up on the ropes and she's going to do like a little jump, which could have been a mini frog splash thing that could have worked here for her to pay homage to Eddie. She did the little shoulder shimmy. They go to commercial, throw her in picture, and she doesn't get her moment. As she's like doing. It's just a little thing that they're not laid out. They're just like, wrestle and we'll go to commercial while you guys are going. So it's like when cool stuff's happen, like it's just the timing's off and it's not lined up properly with that. That bothered me. And the second thing that bothered me about it was what you just said at the ending. So Nyla Rose can get beat up and everything can happen. She can't win the match, but as soon as they lose, she can manhandle Britt Baker and Rebel and powerbomb people through tables and just take over the match.
Yeah, watch it, Brian. You can't say manhandle and Nyla Rose in the same sentence there.
But you know, like, why couldn't that happen in the match? That always drives me nuts when people lose and then can take over.
all of a sudden they're Superman. After they lose, it's almost like the bell rings and oh my
Ding.
God, superhuman strength
Like,
comes in there.
man, get out of here with that.
Yeah, it was so dumb. And unfortunately, Rebel suffered a pretty bad leg injury during this match. So she had to get hurt during a match that meant nothing. And
You put your
as far
women's
as
champion in here in a match that means nothing. Yeah, she got the win, but it means nothing.
it was just doomed from the beginning. Like you said, Vicky doesn't belong in the ring. Vicky had a moment to shine, but it got put in picture in picture. And let's be honest, nobody watches picture in picture. Rebel gets hurt, and then just the icing on the cake, as far as I know, Britt Baker and Rebel are still heels, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
And then Nyla Rose and Vicky Guerrero, obvious heels. It's like, okay, so there's no reason for them to be fighting anyway. They're on the same side.
If they wanted to be creative with this to see if Nyla Rose can get a title shot and tease this, it should have just been Vicky Guerrero versus Rebel.
Right.
With the two wrestlers as managers are on the outside, and then had Vicky go over on Rebel. Now look at that story. Now you had Vicky, a non-wrestler, pin Rebel. So now Britt has to put the title up and has to face Nyla Rose. Now we've got something you're talking about. You have a reason why then she can continuously be mad. Britt can continuously be mad at Rebel. You've got Vicky going over on Nyla. Nyla wants the match. Like there's substance. We're working with things. There's multiple moving parts. This was a tag team match that nothing happened in, and the loser was all of a sudden strong after the match when they lost. Like what are we watching? What's happening? It was dumb.
Yeah. That about sums it up.
We've given too much time on this bullshit as it is. Let's move on to the next match.
Well, and I just can't bite my tongue here. Britt Baker beat Vicky Guerrero. What the hell does that do for Britt Baker?
The only thing
it
that
doesn't make her as the champion look any stronger.
No.
She beat the 60-year-old woman who's never stepped foot in a ring before.
The only thing it does for the match, it does nothing for Britt as an individual. It does for the match is that it just says like, okay, now she can get her hands on Nyla, and Nyla can, there's
Nyla
that.
can say you never beat me.
There's a little thing along those lines, but that's about it. It helps strengthens the match slightly, but it does nothing. It didn't take anything away from Britt either. So it wasn't a negative. It wasn't a points loss. It was just a stalemate. It meant nothing either way.
Pretty much. Just a time filler right here. And next, we had MJF versus Sammy Guevara. Basically, the future of the business right now is in this ring. Sammy Guevara's had his hiccups, almost killing Matt Hardy a couple times and whatnot.
You know what? I'll go down swinging that Matt Hardy was, he's 50%, if not more, the cause of his own demise on a lot of this shit. Sammy just happened to be the guy.
Yeah, that's true. And then, but I'm gonna be honest with you, Brian. I can't really critique this match. This was one where you kind of just sat back. It was a little long, but you just kind of sat back and enjoyed it for what it was. Because these guys, when they're working together, aren't gonna fuck up. They've got everything to a T. Everything is fine-tuned.
Yeah, these two gelled together very well too. They worked very well together. Their styles complemented each other. Their attitudes complemented each other. They could go the distance. They could go long, and they didn't look blown up though either. And they weren't just given a lot of rest holds either.
Right. These guys kept it going at a good pace, and like you said, they never got winded. They know how to tune the match and how to tune the pace to where they're not going Lucha Brother style. They're not going 1,000 miles an hour and then have to take turns sitting outside the ring for 10 minutes each to catch their breath. These guys kept the pace right where it needed to be.
Yeah, the only thing that they were possibly missing was that it just needed to be. They just needed a good out for the story. So who was going over and who wasn't going over was going to be the deciding factor on like if this was, if it's going to work out. And I'm sure that, again, you're kind of painting yourself into a corner. I was possibly calling in my head a Broadway style where it was just going to go the TV time limit. They were just going to go off the air with the two still fighting. And, ring the bell and be like, ding, 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 TV time, and they're still fighting each other. We'll see you next week. That could have been cool. I always like my own ideas the best. I understand that. Nobody pats themselves on the back more than me besides Barry Horowitz. But so it's just but just little things that was questionable on how they were going to get out of it. They AEW'd up the match at the end. Got a little afterbirthy mucked up in the works. But all in all, these two, like you said, they're the future of the biz. I don't know which business, the future of the wrestling business. AEW, WWE, NXT, New Japan, wherever they go, these are the dudes to watch.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And just like the Young Bucks match at the beginning, looks like they sandwich this thing with these types of matches. They knew how to keep the meat and potatoes of the match absolutely fantastic. No way to complain. But then they top off with a shit sandwich for dessert. And this thing was teased. I would have put my money on MJF all day, but they were teasing towards the end that Sammy Guevara was going to win, with Jericho even, turning into chicken shit heel to beg him off and everything. And then Shawn Spears gets involved, and Chris Jericho cuts off Shawn Spears, and then Wardlow's involved, and Wardlow's beating up Jericho. And now the focus is turned on Jericho.
Unfortunately.
And it's like, of course.
The spotlight, it was a Hogan move. This was a Hulk Hogan WCW 1997, 1998 move where it was like, the match isn't about me. And then it was, look at me, look at me, look at me. And he took a terrible bump. I could have thrown my grandma off that stage and taken a better bump. Like, Wardlow didn't even just throw him. Like, just commit. And throw the son of a bitch, Wardlow. You can throw Jericho. He'll be fine. But I'm
sure there's crash pads where they need to be.
Something, man. Or just throw him. He'll be fine. He's a grown man. But he was babied down to the bottom, then tended to like an infant. And that stunk up the joint. And then you got Shawn Spears hiding there with his stupid chair. I'm sick of the chair. I'm sick of the chairman. I'm sick of him sitting in rooms with chairs, talking to chairs. Enough about the chairs. We get it. And then for 2 seconds, though, I thought we were going to see Shawn Spears turn on MJF. I just had this weird, because it was too much Wardlow up here, Shawn Spears here. Nobody's helping Sammy Guevara. So I thought maybe we were getting a little twist. We didn't. I don't know. I think it could have been interesting. Would it have been too soon? Sure. If you wanted to argue with me on that, I wouldn't disagree that I'd be wrong there, that it would have been too early. But I just thought for some reason that was going to happen. I was like, maybe we're going to see a quick turn. There's too much happening, and not enough Inner Circle never came out in any way besides Jericho for 2 seconds, and he got laid down for a nap because he was tired. They laid him down gently in the crib.
Yeah, let's put the spotlight on me, because don't forget, I'm Chris Jericho. I everything needs to be about me, and then like you said, I need to go night. But disappears off, and as great as an idea is that it'll be in the future of Shawn Spears turning on MJF. Right now wasn't the time, and if it happened, we'd be complaining just as much.
I would have complained, but I just thought I was going to see it.
But the finish of this match, again, just kind of fell flat, because you got Wardlow tending to Jericho up in the crowd off of the ramp. You got Shawn Spears hitting Sammy Guevara with the chair, and then MJF just making his way over and just getting a flat 1, 2, 3 on Sammy Guevara.
Sammy and MJF doesn't need to finish sloppy. It either needs to finish clean and somebody takes the win and says, I'm better than you, and you know it, and keeps running with that, and they can do that, or he gets beat and he's severely irate for the next several weeks chasing down Sammy in the Inner Circle. Again, interesting angle to look at. Or it goes off the air in a Broadway style where they just call the match, nobody wins, and they're just left beating the hell out of each other. But to have them get hit in the head by a chair, so you're saying you needed that much? You're not that better than Sammy Guevara? You had to have 2 interferences and get hit with a chair? Like, I think it stole away from MJF.
Yeah, and I get what they're going for. The heel needs to cheat to win, and MJF's not as great as he makes himself out to be, and Sammy Guevara had a chance if it wasn't for that damn chairman. But so I get what they're going for, but MJF doesn't need it. MJF can be a heel who beats good opponents and won't bury those opponents by beating them. He could have beat Sammy Guevara clean in a fashion that MJF is talented enough. Sammy Guevara is talented enough. The producers are backstage working with these two guys, are talented enough to where they could have had MJF go over Sammy clean and still had Sammy look just as good and still had a feud going that would be even stronger than it is now, because now it's just based on the same old, oh, darn you, stupid heel, you had to cheat to beat me.
Yeah, so as new and refreshing as they want to be in the storytelling, they've gone back to old 1960s storytelling, where it's like, oh, shucks, I'll get you again, you bad guy.
You darn cheater. And after this thing wraps up, you get Shawn Spears and Wardlow helping MJF, and they're celebrating. And then because AEW is going back on the road, they've kind of wrapped things up at Daly's place here. We see clips of AEW Dynamite working out of the Daly's place for the past few months. We see clips there, and then that's how we ended the show.
I like the clip thing because, A, I'm a nostalgic clip kind of fella. I love all that stuff. Plus, they doubled the song up with the Dirty Heads song, and I love the Dirty Heads, so I'm a fan of that. So I was geeked that they used the Dirty Heads as a song going over top of those clips, and so I was a fan of that. I like that going off, and it was like a bookmark in a moment in time, kind of ending this weird COVID era of wrestling. I guess we're going to refer to it as in the future. Right. We'll say, oh, who was the best COVID era champion? And this will be where it's at. So it was a nice way to bookmark it out. They paid honor to Brody Lee and stuff in there, which was great to see again, and all these moments that happened over this COVID era, as we're gonna end up going down in history calling it.
Yeah, you've said it perfectly. It was the perfect way for AEW to close the book on the COVID volume. Right. Books are set in volume, book series set in volumes. This is definitely the COVID volume of AEW, and this is the way for them to close the book on that.
And I'm hoping by getting back on the road, getting a lot of different people involved, meaning fans in the crowd, this stuff happening, they're going to get feedback a little more, and they can work their storylines within the feedback they're getting. Now, does every story need to be altered because one week they get booed in this city and cheered? But I'm saying they can have an idea and a sampling of what people are into and if something's going in the right direction or not, and they get it from all over the country. So I think this could be a good thing to help them get back focused again, because once you're stuck in your own microcosm, in your own world, again, I think all my ideas are great, and in my house, my wife thinks they're great, and I can sell them to my 7-year-old. She thinks they're great, and I'm thinking I'm a damn genius, right? But you go out in the real world, your idea might suck balls.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, I'm interested too. And if AEW, as much as I bitch about AEW and as much as I make fun of AEW, if they're ever in the Detroit area on this little tour they're doing, we'll be there.
We'll be there with smiles on. And I believe that's going to wrap up our podcast this week, unless you got anything else coming up there, Mr. Eric Todd, that you want to throw in the mix here.
No, sir. I think we are back on our normal routine here, and we should be on this Thursday, which is a short little lag, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So a 3-day, and then make sure you catch us again. We'll be talking AEW, I imagine, again.
Probably a little AEW again, because we're back in the mix. We'll see what they got and see how this evolves out. So make sure you guys check us out on all the social media platforms, the KayFabe Smark podcast. And tune in every week, share it with a friend, and subscribe on YouTube and like us on all the platforms there. And Eric, you got anything to take us out with?
I just got our normal thing where we let everybody know that hooty hoo, we out the gates.